We need to talk about the one thing Hollywood refuses to give us. And no, I'm not talking about a Half-Life 3 movie. I'm talking about a Street Fighter adaptation that doesn't make you want to gouge your eyes out with a rusty spoon. For 30 years, we have suffered. We've dealt with bad wigs, we've dealt with plot lines that make zero sense, we've dealt with executives thinking that just because a character throws a fireball, the movie needs to look like a Saturday morning cartoon on a budget. But there was a moment, a brief shining moment in 2014 where it looked like we were finally going to get the prestige TV treatment. There was a pitch on the table for a sequel to the fan favorite Assassin's Fist. But this wasn't just a sequel. The writer, Joy Ansah, pitched a World Warrior saga that he described as, and I quote, Game of Thrones with martial arts. Politics, betrayal, Shadowloo is a terrifying global regime, Ryu and Ken navigating a world that wanted them dead. It sounded perfect. It sounded like The Last of Us or Arcane before those shows even existed. And do you know what the showrunner said? They said no. Today we're doing a deep dive into the lost Street Fighter masterpiece. We're going to look at the marketing psychology behind why Hollywood is so scared of dark video game movies, and we're going to look at what could have been. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Cyler. Let's get into the news. Before we dissect the corpse of this canceled project, let's do a quick temperature check. If you're new here, this channel is where I blend my obsession with gaming news, with my actual day job, with my background in marketing and strategy. Basically, I analyze why companies make decisions that usually frustrate the hell out of us gamers. It's been a chaotic week over here. Between the marketing grind, the channel, and just life, things have been moving fast. But looking at the Street Fighter story actually hit home for me this week. In marketing, we deal with something called risk aversion. When you have a big brand, you are terrified of changing it. And that fear, is exactly what killed this project. So to understand the tragedy, you have to understand the success. In 2014, Street Fighter Assassin's Fist dropped. It started as a YouTube series, then got bundled into a movie. And it was incredible. It wasn't cheesy. It was a character drama about a broken family, Gauken, Akuma, and the dark power of the Satsui no Hado. It treated the lore with the same respect that Peter Jackson treated Lord of the Rings. It proved that you could take guys in karate gis throwing fireballs and make it emotional. It was a proof of concept. And naturally, Joy Ansah, the creator, wanted to go bigger. Here's the vision that got scrapped. According to a recent interview, Ansah wanted to move from the origin story into the World Warrior arc. But he didn't want to make a tournament movie. He wanted to make a political thriller. The pitch was simple. The World Warrior Tournament isn't just a fun brawl, it's a front. It's a mechanism for Shadowloo to recruit soldiers, launder money, and destabilize governments. Ansah pitched an episodic series, hour-long episodes. So imagine this. One plotline following Chun-Li and Guile as they navigate the corrupt legal system and military red tape to track down Bison. A true detective vibe. Another plotline following Ryu and Ken as they leave the safety of the dojo and get thrown into the underground fighting circuits of Hong Kong or London. He wanted consequences. He wanted blood. He literally used the Game of Thrones comparison because he wanted the audience to feel like no one was safe. If E Honda loses a fight in this version, he doesn't just get a bruised face. Maybe he gets executed by Vega in a back alley because he refused to throw the match. And M. Bison? In the games, he's a mustache-twirling villain. In Ansah's pitch, he was a dictator, a Tywin Lannister figure with psycho power, a man who runs the world from the shadows. Sounds incredible, right? Sounds like the show we are all begging for right now. So why did the executives kill it? We're going to get into the marketing fail that killed the show in a second, but first, speaking of great visuals, I need to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Kyo Arts. Look, we all know the struggle. You spend thousands on your gaming PC, your monitor, your RGB lighting, and then the wall behind it is just sad. It's empty, it's boring. That is where Kyo Arts comes in. Kyo Arts is an independent art shop that specializes in the kind of aesthetic we love. I'm talking vaporwave, cyberpunk, glitch art, and surreal space designs. If you want that arcade high energy vibe in your office or gaming room, you need to check them out. They have high quality canvas prints, posters, and even home decor. It's not that generic stuff you find at big box stores. This is art with personality. So if you're tired of staring at a blank wall while you wait for your match to load, go to kyoarts.com. Treat your setup to some actual culture. Link is in the description below. Huge thanks to Kyo Arts for sponsoring the channel and helping us keep the lights on. Now let's get back to why Hollywood is terrified of dark gaming movies. All right, put your marketing hats on. Let's look at the suit logic behind this rejection. I've been in these rooms. I've seen great ideas die because of a chart on a whiteboard. And in this case, the killer was likely the concept of the 4-quadrant hit. Studios and especially investors are obsessed with the 4-quadrant hit. They want a movie that appeals to men, women, the youth, the older crowd. Marvel movies are 4-quadrant hits. Everyone goes. Joey Ansah's pitch, that is a hard R rating. That is violent, that is dark, that immediately kills the under 25 quadrant and alienates the casual family audience. The executives looked at Street Fighter and saw a toy brand. They saw lunchboxes, they saw Fortnite skins. If you make a show where Blanca rips someone's throat out in a fit of primal rage, you can't sell that Blanca plushie to a 7-year-old the next day. They wanted brand safety. They told Ansah to tone it down. They wanted it shorter, faster, more accessible. They wanted the TikTok version before TikTok was a thing. And this leads to the second marketing concept, the misunderstanding of the TAM, or total addressable market. The executives assumed the TAM for Street Fighter was kids and teenagers, but you and I know the truth. The people who care about Street Fighter lore, we are in our 30s and 40s. We grew up in the arcades in the 90s. We are the Game of Thrones audience. They tried to make a product for an audience that doesn't care and ignored the audience that actually has the money. It is a classic marketing failure. You chase a new customer so hard that you alienate your loyalists. So because they refused the dark vision, we got Street Fighter Resurrection. It was fine. It was short. It was low budget. It felt like a web series. It had none of the gravitas or the scope of the World Warrior pitch. It came and went and nobody talked about it. And the irony, look at the industry now. The Last of Us on HBO. Dark, depressing, violent, massive hit. Fallout, violent, satirical, weird, massive hit. Arcane, complex, emotional, tragic, massive hit. Ansah was right. He was just 5 years too early. He saw where the industry was going, but the gatekeepers were too stuck in the past to let him drive. And that brings us to today. Legendary Pictures is trying again, but we just got news that the directors, the Philippou brothers, who made the horror movie Talk to Me, have left the project. Why? Scheduling conflicts? Or is it possible that once again, a director wanted to do something bold and scary and the studio said, make it safer? I worry we are stuck in a loop. I worry that Hollywood still sees gamers as people who can't handle complex emotions. They think we just want to see the button inputs on screen, but we don't. We want the story, we want the stakes. We want to know what it costs to throw a Hadouken. So here's the takeaway. Whether you're a creative, a marketer, or just a fan, when you try to please everyone, you usually end up pleasing no one. Assassin's Fist worked because it had a vision. This Game of Thrones sequel could have changed the entire landscape of video game movies. Instead, it's just another what-if file in the history of gaming. But hey, at least we have Street Fighter 6, right? And I'm going to go play that right now to wash the taste of disappointment out of my mouth. I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Would you watch a super dark political Street Fighter series? Or do you think the franchise needs to stay goofy and fun? Let me know down below. I read all the comments, usually while procrastinating on my actual work. If you enjoyed this deep dive, do me a massive favor, smash that like button and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, it helps algorithm find us, and it validates my decision to talk about Ryu instead of doing spreadsheets. I'm Cyler, keep gaming, keep grinding, and I'll see you in the next one.